franchising industry as a whole does not know a lot about influencer marketing. And in fact, I think it's a giant question mark for a lot of business owners, especially small business owners.
Hello, and welcome to the Perfect Franchise Podcast.
I'm Kris, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Andrea.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to help you discover all that franchising has to offer.
We'll explore expert strategies, interview successful franchise owners, and give you the tools to make informed decisions.
So whether you're considering your options or you're ready to take that plunge, we're here to support you every step of the way.
So let's jump into today's episode. Hi, welcome to another episode of the TPF podcast. Today we have a really interesting and unique episode, Andrea and I. We've got Angela Olea, CEO and founder, and Liberty Bernal, COO and president of Sweet Influencers. We'll talk about what that is in a second, but ladies, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on. This is something we don't know a lot about, so we're going to be really digging in with both of you today. So start us out at the basics. Tell us what Sweet Influences is and what you do.
All right. So we are the first AI-powered operating system built by franchisors exclusively for franchising, so that their local franchisees with authenticity can grow their local market.
Yeah, and to add on to that, specifically with influencers. So Andrea, you mentioned that this might not be a topic you know a whole lot about, and you're not alone. The franchising industry as a whole does not know a lot about influencer marketing. And in fact, I think it's a giant question mark for a lot of business owners, especially small business owners. So if you think of influencer marketing, we'll start there. We think, oh my goodness, there's these influencers that have millions of followers and they're on TikTok and Instagram and they charge $100,000 to post. And that's actually not what we do. So we will match a brand in franchising and work with their franchisees to find local influencers. And we might use the word creator. So heads up there, that's interchangeable. We'll find local influencers or creators to create a post and stories and reels and all the things we know about on social media that are possible authentically about that brand at a local level to drive traffic. So the whole idea is that we're getting someone local to say, oh my gosh, I went to this business and here's my experience, and their voice and their tone and their aesthetic even, but they're really the perfect match for that brand to talk about it. And we get to match them. So our job as the influencer marketing agency is to identify and curate those influencers locally and bring them to the brand and handle everything from A to Z.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Kris, if I could jump in here. So I'll tell you, I went first thing in the morning on Saturday to do a little shopping at Lululemon, and they were having a sale. So there happened to be a bunch of businesses in there that were serving different things. And so one of the franchises we sell actually was in there passing out his product. So I got chatting with him. He's local in my area, just opened up, and he's like, I'm terrible at social media. And it's a brand that appeals to teenagers, high school kids. So he started picking my brain because my daughter's at that high school that he's trying to get into. And he's like, do you know how to get in? He's like, and I'm like, well, what about influencers? Even in high school, you hear about these kids doing this. And so there's a couple I know that have really big following around here. And so I actually sent him a message and said, here's someone to maybe connect with to do this. And it sounds a little bit like what you're saying is finding who's that right person and who are local influencers for them.
Yeah. And I'll say to that, Andrea, you are certainly on to the right idea. What can go sideways for a franchisee like him would be maybe just going, okay, Andrea thought these were great people, and he invites them to speak about the brand, and they may not keep the brand guardrails, or maybe he overpays, not understanding what the proper pay structure would be, or someone did not dig deep into their history of posts and learn that they may have shared some extreme views and that perhaps the brand might not want to associate with. Yeah. And oftentimes there aren't the ideal influencers at the top of our mind locally, or we may not know who the right person to go to is. So the AI that Angela mentioned is twofold for us. We do have AI tools that scour the social channels to identify the right influencers. We also have a platform that we're actually almost done building that we're really excited about. It's our own proprietary platform that our clients will be able to log into for part of the service. But we couple that with actual human beings, making sure that these influencers are the right fit. So we've heard a lot of horror stories from our clients saying, hey, so we tried to do this on our own and it didn't go so well. Or our ratio we found is for every 100, and this is actually, it's a similar ratio to franchising, where for every 100 people a franchise may talk to, one may respond, right? Really, truly respond. We find the same. Our team is reaching out to 100 creators at a time, and maybe one or two respond. So it's a tedious process as well.
Okay. I've got a question, but before I ask it, I want to give a little background for the audience, for anybody who doesn't know. So, Angela, you've been a franchisor in the past, so have I. And what I find is that franchisees can spend their marketing money on two levels, right? They can spend it themselves locally on decisions that they make locally, but they're also almost always contributing a little bit of money into a pool, right? Which we call an ad fund or a brand fund in franchising, where all the franchisees chip in a little bit of money. And now we've got this pool of money, this collective pool from which collectively they can do things, bigger and better things that they couldn't do as individuals, right? So that's for everybody listening that doesn't know what an ad fund or a brand fund is. So with that as background, is Sweet Influencers more for the franchisee to do individually, or is it more being decided upon at the brand level, and that's the way that the brand fund or the ad fund is being spent, or is it both? How does that break down?
Liberty, do you want to take this one?
I would love to. So I've also been a franchisor as well as a franchisee. And so I've had to do all those different things, and it can be really super stressful. There are franchisees, as we all know, who may be able to take this on themselves. They may say, I love this idea. I will hire Sweet Influencers directly and do this in my area. Or perhaps they'll get together even as a co-op in a market, because you can target an influencer for an entire DMA. Franchisors, and that is primarily who we're working with now as we've launched the company this year. We want to speak with our fellow franchisors so they understand what we're doing. They will usually say this is a perfect use of our brand fund, and they'll target certain markets to run. And we're in a pilot phase. We're about to get out of pilot phase, but we are in a pilot phase where they'll test in certain markets with the brand fund for their franchisees on behalf of them. So when we work and kind of do that hand holding, it's with the people at the corporate level, not always the franchisee. But if you can imagine, if you're identifying local influencers, it is important to get the feedback from a local franchisee on who would be the best match.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the things, Liberty, you just hit on, and I think this is always interesting for our audience to think about. So some people come in this process and they think, I'm out there on my own, doing this on my own. Yes, I have the franchisor, but I'm in my territory. But you just talked about working it as a market. And sometimes that fellow franchisee to the left or right of you is somebody that you can connect with and do some of that marketing, because they may cross over. And that always helps you even from a name. They see it in one area, but then you live in a different zip code, and so it crosses over. So that's another good thing, where you're partnering with other people to build it out as an area development.
Yeah, I just had a conversation with a multi-unit franchisee in Atlanta, and it's a service, a home service. And he said, hey, look, I own everything inside the perimeter of Atlanta, but I'm really close with franchisees who are outside of that, where he could understand that influencers would reach all of it. And he said, I'm calling him up and I'm getting together and we're going to share this budget. And by the way, the budget for local influencers is hundreds of dollars, not thousands. So that's another huge bonus, is that this is reasonable for a local owner.
I would expect one of the challenges you guys have is that, a lot of the people that we work with here at TPF, they're my age, they're in their 50s, they're Gen X, and they're looking for a career change. And this whole idea of influencers and just, obviously I'm learning on this podcast. Andrea knows way more about it than I do, but she's also younger than me.
I'm a few years younger, not much though.
Yeah. So for the people like me that go influencer, schminfluencer, I don't know what we're talking about. What are the things people like me need to know about why this is a critical part of your advertising spend going forward?
Yeah, influencer marketing, in the past, I mean, we've gone from yellow pages. There's an evolution of marketing, and there's still good old-fashioned marketing that you need to do. We're not saying that you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of all of the things that you're doing, but we're saying if you don't lean into the influencer marketing, you are absolutely going to lose your market opportunity, your market share. And anybody, I don't know how many gadgets downstairs from TikTok that I have been influenced by on a daily basis. And so it is a proven fact that when you see people using something, doing something that you follow enough and it just pops up, that it resonates with you differently than a money mailer you might get, or a pop-up ad. And so that's what we're saying is, to give this an opportunity, and with our tools. So we've got a sweet fit, a sweet score, and a sweet ROI that we've developed. And again, both Liberty and I have been on the franchisee side and franchisor side, and these are unique optics that we have, because we know happy franchisees benefit all the way around, and that is the core. And if you listen to any of these undercover boss, the number one thing that they complain about universally is going to be marketing dollars and that marketing spend. I've never heard any brand ever get on there and be like, yay, I'm so happy with all the marketing. So this is something that you may not understand, and we do a great job about educating and walking through and partnering and walking through this step by step, so that we're really educating and providing real life, real time engagement. And that's the thing you can see with this immediate engagement with a post, how it's doing, and then you get the ripple effect.
It's great. And I think, part of this is, and you've both, Angela and Kris, you talked about this a little bit. It's, the franchisor potentially is spending this money, but then as a franchisee, you can too. And I think people don't realize they're like, oh, I bought a franchise, they're going to do all the marketing for me. No, it doesn't really work that way. There's going to be a portion of it that comes that they can, especially when they get to a name level where they're across nationally, it's a little bit easier for them to market the business. They're going to help you do some things, but you have to do local marketing too. So there's a big component of that. And I think the other piece that I'm hearing when you say AI, I'd like you to dig into that a little bit more, because is there targeted messages that different influencers are saying? If you're targeting one age demographic, you want to say something, and another age demographic. So I assume there's something there where you're changing the marketing message depending on who's influencing. Is that correct?
That's an interesting take on it, Andrea. It could be in the future. You might have just created our next focus there, Angela. We should take notes.
Yeah,
but in all seriousness,
royalties for this.
Well, that's kind of the cool part about AI. There are so many uses of AI. Right now, our main use of it is in how we're finding the influencers. Truly, it's a mix of finding the influencers and identifying the metrics, and it's generative AI too. So our data, so essentially we have a database, not even essentially, we have this growing database of already vetted influencers, of which we have over 1,000 now. That was our big benchmark for the year. Yay, end of the year, we hit it, and growing. So it's sort of exponentially growing now, where our team receives applications. We have paid media out to the various social media to say, if you're an influencer, we want to work with you, or we'll match you with brands. So starting there, as that database grows, we use AI to scour it as we have brands who need exactly the perfect influencer. But as the system grows and AI gets smarter within our system, we'll be able to match even better. We'll be able to match even faster, and sort of narrow that all down. So that's really our sweet spot of AI. But the use keeps growing, honestly, and changing. I will say, and I think I mentioned it earlier, still having humans involved has been pretty key. Because if you think about it, and Kris, I'll also mention this about influencer.
It's hard to say.
I know. I was like, wait, what? But when people think, oh, influencers, and they kind of go, I don't know if I need that. Remember that it's an authentic voice. It's a real person. So AI is great and we all utilize it in various ways. But influencer marketing is still meant to be authentic. It's not an ad that an agency polished and made shiny and perfect and new. It's a real person experiencing the service or product. Do they have brand guidelines around that? Yes, but that is why it speaks to people oftentimes in a stronger way than just an ad, right? Especially a static ad. We're scrolling now past those very quickly. So our AI kind of bots will identify the influencers who are already providing those messages in a powerful, authentic way and match the brands to those better influencers. So there are, a million out there, and it's our job to make sure we find the best ones.
Just to be clear, I'm all for influencers. I was just holding myself up as an example of
as an example.
Dumb 50-year-old. But, I'm really excited about this idea because my experience, people they understand the concept of a brand fund, but they don't. They understand, hey, if we're Papa John's and we have thousands of franchisees pitching in, then we get to do Super Bowl commercials, right? But it doesn't take that many franchisees chipping in to hire a PR company that everybody shares, right? You can't, it's kind of expensive to do it all by yourself, but if there's 30 of us, 50 of us, now it's a good deal. This strikes me as the same kind of thing where it's really something that the brand can do for their franchisees, and they don't have to be a legacy brand with $1 million in their brand fund to do something really cool and something the franchisees probably wouldn't do. So I say all that to ask you, you mentioned you're in a pilot phase. So where are we at now as a company? Can you give us some success stories, and when will we be out of the pilot phase?
I can start, and Angela, I'm sure you'll add to it. So pilot phase is coming to a close. So the other day, Angela and I literally were like, okay, our team has their hands extremely full, and everyone we've spoken to this year, we've said, join our pilot program. And what that has meant, so it's clear, everyone wondering, what's a pilot program? It meant we were not charging a service fee, of which, by the way, our service fees aren't wild and crazy and untouchable, but we do have to charge a fee and make money because we're a company. But we were waiving that for our pilot. And the only cost to the pilot clients was the hard cost of the influencer, which, as I mentioned, again, it's not thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It's a few hundred per influencer. We tend to layer influencers. So if we have a pilot for, let's say, a drain unclogging franchise. So I mentioned a few home services because I think it's important for even the unsexiest brands to understand they too can use influencer marketing. And sometimes it's even more powerful for them. So with something like drain cleaning, if you have a really powerful local mom influencer and she's talking about how amazing this company was, the customer service they provided, how easy it was, how clean and professional the person was who came to their home, that's the power in the influencer marketing. So we've run these pilots now, very, very carefully learning a lot from them. In fact, we've also been building our platform, as I mentioned, so that we can service more and more clients, not as white glove. There's a white glove service where we're hands-on, but also they can log in. But we've worked with a few, products. We've worked with a lot of services, and now it is time to actually start charging for our service as we move forward. And I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think this has been a great call. It's different, right? And I think, Angela, I'd like to sort of end with you. Is there anything else you want to add that you think is going to be really important for these listeners to, this is definitely a newer concept, and we're glad you came on. So anything you want to close out with?
Yeah, absolutely. Lean into trying it out and giving it a go. There is nothing to lose in doing influencer marketing, and people need to understand who their audience is. And this gets to the core. It's surprising how a lot of franchisees truly don't know how to paint that exact picture, but this drills it down and all of the people in that sphere. So Sweet Influencers is the wave of the future. It's influencing marketing. It's not going away. Creator marketing is not going away.
That's great. Thanks so much for that. Thank you, both of you, for coming on today. Definitely a unique conversation, so I appreciate that. So if you're thinking about franchising, remember that while there's no one size fits all, the perfect franchise for you is definitely out there. To explore your options, visit theperfectfranchise.com and click on Let's Talk to schedule a call with a consultant on our team. We look forward to connecting with you again on our next episode.